On this here.
Do you have some paper for me?
Sorry? Oh, the paper.
Just in case I need to write something while you're asking me. Yeah, that's good.
With the pen?
Like Bhagavan. It's clearing my throat, but I'll...
Oh. Yeah, you are on Lead Radio, the home of good music and fresh content. Today it is another day. Remember that every day at 5 p.m. we sit down and we have a chat. Usually Umtofi or Zikit, but he's coming, he's on his way. It's just that he's a bit delayed, but the interview continues. Today it's an interesting day because this is my first time sitting with Democratic Alliance in Amajuba. We have sat with other parties and we understand what they are dealing with. So today it's another good day whereby we sit with Democratic Alliance in order to unpack and understand them. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Clancy, and to your listeners. I hope everybody is well today.
How are you doing?
Well, good, except for I have a slightly bad throat, but other than that, I'm in good spirits. We just came out of our Federal Congress and our mood is on top of the world.
No, I was following on TV, I saw what was happening. So if we can start, can you please introduce yourself to my listeners? I know that some know you, some don't know you. If you can introduce yourself.
So my name is Imraan. My surname is Keeka. I have been brought up in Newcastle all my life. I was away during my years of study, but otherwise I'm a Newcastle boy, born and bred here. Today is my wedding anniversary, interestingly, but I decided to come.
Congratulations.
Thank you, 21 years.
Oh, okay.
And I have 5 children. I have 4 daughters, a son. That's my personal life. Professionally, I trained initially as a doctor of medicine, but I practice Chinese medicine and acupuncture here in Newcastle when I have time. In my political life, I am a member of the Democratic Alliance. I have been a member of the party since 2010. That's many years now. I was initially a councillor here in the Newcastle municipality. Subsequently, I was elected to the KwaZulu-Natal legislature and I've been there since 2014. With the formation of the Government of Provincial Unity, I was elected as the chairperson of the Health Portfolio Committee in KwaZulu-Natal. And I'm also the chief whip of my caucus in the legislature. And I do many other things. There are many portfolios that I serve on: education, quality of life, the ethics committee, and many other things. So I chair one, soon to be 2, because we intend launching a TB caucus. That resides under the health portfolio.
Because I have a good relationship with Matateni Hospital, PRO.
Yes.
So I've seen that there's something that has to do with TB that they are doing in promoting it.
Yes. Recently was World TB Day. And,
yes, I remember.
So there was a lot of talk about TB and all of that. We can speak about it at a different time. But in a nutshell, that I serve different party roles as well. I'm a member of the PEC in KwaZulu-Natal, the Provincial Executive Committee. I am the leader of the DA or constituency head in the Amajuba constituency, which, as you know, are the 3 municipalities: Denhauser, Emadlangeni, and here, Newcastle. So there's a lot of things I do. You'll get tired with my just listening to my CV. Yeah,
I can see that it's busy. So if you can tell me, prior to you joining the DA, were you a member of any other political party?
No.
Yeah.
Initially, I, like many South Africans, supported only the African National Congress.
Okay.
At some point, there was a by-election. The former mayor, Abdul Rahman, if you remember him.
Yes, I remember him.
He was also an an IFP councillor at some point.
Yes.
And there was a by-election. So in that by-election, I voted for him, but as the IFP. But I always voted for the ANC. I couldn't vote in 1994. I was abroad.
Okay.
And I was studying medicine at that time, so I couldn't vote. However, subsequently, I always voted in every election for the African National Congress, except in 2009.
What happened?
In 2009, it's an interesting story. I went to the ballot box to vote for the ANC.
Yes.
But I was double-minded. So when I got there, I stood in the ballot box and looked at the ballot paper, and I could not bring myself to vote for the man whose face was on the ballot paper. And that was Jacob Zuma in 2009.
Yeah.
So I spoiled my ballot because I didn't want to vote for the DA at the time as well. And I spoiled my ballot paper by voting for everybody. So it was a protest vote at that time. And I wasn't wrong that I didn't vote for Jacob Zuma, other than the 9 wasted years of his presidency. He has proven subsequently, including the formation of his new party.
So you are not a fan of MK?
No, they are a completely feckless party, useless party. Because I can say this with authority, because in the legislature there are 37 members of the MK.
Right.
Some of them serve on the portfolio committee that I chair, and we work with them in the other portfolios. And quite honestly, and I can say this with authority because I served on the opposition benches for 10 years prior to that, and 3 years in the Newcastle municipality. I served for quite some time on the opposition benches. So I know what it means to be an effective opposition. And quite honestly, the MK is not only just useless. I use the word feckless. They don't know what it means to be in that legislature or to do the work of the people. And so, that's my view. It's my view. It's the view of my party in the legislature. We all hold the same view. That they don't know anything about opposition, let alone governance. So if they had to get into government tomorrow, if they couldn't do the job, they can't do the basics of opposition, the very basics of opposition. Can you imagine what they would be like in government?
Right. Let's forget about them.
Yeah, let's forget about
that. I was just passing. Where I'm going now is you've already started for me. Can you please paint the picture of what happened last week? Because you were in Johannesburg for some time last week, and as a party, you were doing something there. Can you just give us a picture before we get into the other issues? Or what were you doing as a party in Johannesburg?
Very briefly, and a summary. So on Thursday last week, we had what is called the Federal Council. The Federal Council, for those who don't understand the structures of the DA, is similar to the ANC's NEC or the IFP's NEC.
National Conference?
No.
Okay.
National Executive Committee.
National Executive
So the National Executive Committee in the ANC and in the IFP, in the DA, we call it the Federal Council.
Okay.
It is the second largest decision-making body of the party. I am a member of that Federal Council.
Okay.
And there we voted for the chairperson of the Federal Council, the deputy chairpersons, and so on of the Federal Council, which is the structure separate to the elections that were announced, where Jordan Hill Lewis, our new leader, was elected at the Congress of the DA. Other parties call it a conference. We call it a Congress that took place on Sunday. So we had several matters that we had to deal with regards to the workings of the party at our Federal Council on Thursday. But on Saturday and Sunday, we were at the Gallagher Estate. Part of our duties, we adopted certain resolutions of the party. We worked through the amendments to the constitution of the party, because only through a 2/3 majority of our federal Congress can the constitution be changed in the party. And we had, if I remember correctly, it was, I think, around 20 some odd constitutional amendments. And we went through that in a record period of time without people throwing chairs at each other or water bottles.
Are you throwing shades?
Well, if the cap fits.
Okay.
So it was a very peaceful, dignified, and proper Congress where we went through the motions of not only ensuring that the party will work better, but we also ensured that we elected a leadership that will put South Africa first and continue to put South Africa first.
So I know the main man. If you can break down the top leadership, I know the main man, but if you can tell us about the other leaders who were elected.
So we elected several leaders. In the Federal Council that I spoke about, we elected a leader there, and his name is Ashur Sarupen.
Yes.
He's the Federal Council chairperson. We elected several deputies for him, 3 deputies that will do the day-to-day work of the party. Right. But at our Federal Congress, we elected Jordan Hill Lewis. As you know, he's the mayor of the city of Cape Town currently.
Yes.
He has also agreed to remain as the mayor of Cape Town and not go to parliament, so that he can continue to do the work that he's doing in the city of Cape Town, and also not be on the cabinet, so that he can have an independent voice. So he has chosen that. We've elected Solim Simanga. Solim Simanga is currently the chairperson of the leader of the Gauteng province. Okay. But he is also elected to remain in that position, while at the same time also being elected as the federal chairperson. And then, of course, we elected deputy chairpersons, the first of which is Sibiwe Kwarobe, who you know is the Minister of Education. Yes. And we elected other leaders there. So those are the people that we elected that I think is important for you to know at the moment.
Okay. Another issue that Lewis has raised is the issue of minister or ministers. Let me put it that way. Yeah, let me put it safely that way. On the media, that the issue of the current ministers, it's not something that is in a rush, but it's something that will be discussed and looked at if there is a need to change. Is it giving us a clue that maybe Johnston Eisen might be changed from his position and others maybe? Was something like that discussed?
We don't discuss those issues. There is a national caucus that makes decisions. There's a parliamentary leader and a caucus that make their decisions. We are unlike other political parties where we interfere with structures of the party. Each one maintains their independence, and that is a core fundamental of a liberal political party. We are not like some parties where the leader dictates everything. Jordan Hill Lewis will stay in his lane, and the elected parliamentary leader will stay in his lane. However, they will all talk, and the decisions regarding deployments will take place where they need to take place by the people that make the decision. So we don't get the wrong people doing the wrong things.
If I may, there's also an issue about gender that other people have raised. They seem to have a feeling that when it comes to women, there's not a lot who were elected in this previous elections that you had. What would you say to someone who has that feeling?
Well, the DA, you see, they're measuring the DA by the yardstick of their own political parties.
Right.
And this is wrong.
Yeah.
They should understand the TA and how we work so that they can understand why it emerges that way. So how it emerges in the TA, how it works is that you have to make yourself available for election.
Right.
You have to be, it's not like the branches nominate somebody.
Yeah.
You must say, look, I put my hand up. I want to be the chairperson of a particular thing, or I want to be the federal leader of the party. Then you will fill in a form that you will have somebody to nominate you and second you. You will go out, you will do the canvassing in the 9 yards, all 9 yards, and then you will come to the Congress. So it depends how many women put up their names, and it emerges from there. So it's not like we don't take nominations from the floor. We don't take nominations from the branches. Our systems are different, and so it depends how many women put up their hands, and elections followed from there. For the leadership of the contest of the deputy chairpersons where Siviwe was elected, I stand to be corrected because I paid attention only to the candidates that I was interested in voting for. And for me, I recall 2 women put up their hand for that position. One was Siviwe, and one was Professor Nomafrenji Mbombo,
yes, yeah,
who was the former MEC for Health and Minister of Health in the Western Cape. She now chairs a portfolio committee there. So that's how it works in the DA. So people, if they want to measure us, they must measure us according to how we work and not by their own understanding. If you look at the KwaZulu-Natal caucus,
yes,
we are 11 members. Of the 11 members, I think 7 members are female. So, if you want to look at gender, we far exceed the 50% that other people are talking about in our own caucus, in our own diversity. And, so we don't measure ourselves by other people's yardsticks. We have our own systems. And we are the only political party amongst 1 or 2 others like the NFP that has had a female leader in South Africa. And we've had the female premier first before anybody else. And, so you can't talk to us about female leadership when we have been the ones that have been leading in South Africa all along. So those people can quite frankly take their opinions and keep it to themselves instead of going out and embarrassing themselves.
So that is why now you are sending Helen to rescue Gauteng.
Well, again, there was a process that was followed. There were people who applied to be the mayor of the city of Johannesburg. Helen was one of them. She was interviewed like everybody else, and she emerged on top of the list. And so she will be our candidate for the city of Johannesburg. And we hope that she will rescue a city in rapid decline, if not completely shattered by... We just spent 2 days there, like we said, more than 2 days.
So we were avoiding the potholes.
We were avoiding the potholes and the blocked drains and the floods on the streets. And today I saw Helen rowing in a boat in one of those puddles. So, yeah.
Okay, let's take it home. It was just an introduction.
Yes.
Let's take it home here in Newcastle.
Yes.
Let's talk about the Newcastle municipality, because you are one of the partners in Newcastle municipality. So let me get first your overview assessment of the situation in the Newcastle municipality before I probe.
So let me clarify something.
Yes.
Our agreement with the IFP is not one of a coalition.
Okay.
We've never been in a coalition in this municipality with the IFP.
Right.
What we do have is an agreement with the IFP to govern the town, and our aim and objective of that was to take it away from the ANC. We've always maintained, the Democratic Alliance has always been very clear. That
why did you want to take it away from
I'm coming
ANC?
to that.
Okay.
We've always maintained that we do not want the ANC to govern, because wherever they govern badly, and that is quite evident. Wherever the ANC governs, it's badly governed. You can try and tell me otherwise, but now and you'll need to prove yourself.
No, I'm just listening to you.
And moreover, if you want to ask somebody, ask the president himself. I mean, he said the DA governs better. So you can ask him, he'll tell you, but the reality is that our aim and objective has always been that we have achieved that not only in Newcastle in 2021, but we've also achieved that in 2024 in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and certainly with the government of national unity, where the ANC no longer holds the majority or hegemony that it previously had. And so the DA believes that in the work that we have been doing over a period of time, we have achieved that. What agreement we do have with the IFP is what we call a service delivery agreement. It is something that was signed between the IFP.
SDA.
Yes. Something that we signed between ourselves and the IFP in 2021, and there was a run-up to that. There were lots of discussions that took place. And initially, it wasn't a smooth road. It was a rocky road. And when I started seeing the results coming in here, in Newcastle in particular, and in Amajuba, I realized that we can take all these municipalities away from them. And I started discussions. I approached the IFP. Right. I didn't wait for them to come to me. I approached them. I approached Action SA. Initially, we didn't want to work with Team Sugar South Africa. And my provincial executive committee had made it very clear to me that we will not work with Team Sugar South Africa. However, we had to look at the dynamics. And we had to look at the fact that if we don't work together with the various other political parties, we will not be able to take all of the municipalities away from the ANC. Right. After lots of discussions, some of which I'm not even going to go on record about, but after many discussions, we eventually all came to an agreement that we will work together. Whilst the IFP and other political parties may say to themselves that they are in coalition, that is fine, let them keep saying that. But our agreement is with the IFP, that we will support their budget, we'll support their mayor, and whatever else needed supporting, so long as the SDA was in place. Now, when you enter an agreement like that, there are always give and takes. And part of the taking on behalf of the DA was we wanted two things. We wanted to chair the oversight committee, which is the Municipal Public Accounts Committee in Newcastle, that would give us the oversight powers into the various other portfolios of the municipality, because it is a committee that sees everything. However, its ability and capability is hampered by costs. So if it wants to investigate something, initiate something, it requires a particular budget and cost. And over the period of time, over the term, we've noticed that has been something that has been a stumbling block for us. In that we have identified so many things that need investigation and so many things that need dealing with. But the question of the ability to do it and in-house, how shall I put it, capacity to do so was not there. Where we've been assisted recently is that the MEC for Treasury or Finance, the Honorable Francois Rogers, who is also the DA provincial leader, has a municipal unit within his ministry. And it is through that unit that we have been able to take a deeper dive into the finances, not only of the Newcastle municipality, but of the district. And the way that I have participated in that is that as the constituency head, I have been on it in the terms of a system that we call parliamentary questions. Parliamentary questions are sort of an inquiry. You use a written form of inquiry to raise particular issues with a particular MEC. In the National Assembly, they would send it to the minister. And you can send a number of these. So if you get a response, you're not happy with the content, you want to query more on something, and you can endlessly query those things.
So do they give some evidence to your questions there? So it's just here, right?
So it's not evidence, but it is, they have to act within the framework of the law. So it's not like the Marlanga Commission, for example, where you have an evidence leader.
They just respond.
So for example, as you know that the Hawks were here recently,
Yeah.
But it arose out of a parliamentary process. You remember that the Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Portfolio Committee from the National Assembly was in the province, COPTA were in the province. Issues were raised with them. The issues are already known to you, and they're known to your listeners. They've heard about it from everybody, either people defending it or people, saying no, there's no justification, or whatever it is.
Yes.
The reality is that, there's a saying in English, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
So we said, no, let's go look at it. And two MECs were tasked by the National Portfolio Committee to look into these things. One was the MEC for COPTA, which is the Honorable Buthelezi, and Honorable Rogers. So from my side, my duty as the constituency head was to ask them, where are you with these investigations? What are you doing? Where is your ministry at the moment? And so I've said that. Ideally, they should have responded within 21 days. And sad to say, accountability is accountability. I'm going to throw my leader under the bus. I hope he's not listening to your little radio station.
Yeah.
He has not responded to my questions yet.
Okay.
But I will get a response. And when I get a response from him and Honorable Buthelezi, I'll share it with you. And I'll share it with the listeners. Because this needs, we don't we don't ask these things and want to hold people accountable. Because accountability is the name of the game. And then take those things and beg a lie, take it and keep it here. We don't want that. We want it to be public knowledge, because the public have a right to know. And so we'll hope that from their side everything is unfolding. Honorable Buthelezi also has not responded. But we will continue to pursue that until we get a response from them on those issues. And then we will, one is give it to our caucus so that they can use it in Exco and other places, raise it in council, and we'll then see what next. Now, that brings me on to the same thread, on the same topic, of the hawks.
Yeah.
Look, that's a great thing, wonderful thing, because how else will you know? If you ask the politicians are going to give you the same answers always. No, we have nothing to do with it. Fine, you have nothing to do with it. Let it be investigated. Let the smoke be investigated. Let the fire trucks come. Let them see if there's a fire there. And if there's a fire, what must they do about it? So they must investigate it. The Hawks must conduct a free and fair investigation. I know that beyond what they confiscated from the municipality and the raids they conducted, they even went and raided service providers.
All right.
They took their cell phones and gadgets and things like that away. I know there's a particular roads service provider to the Newcastle municipality who was there in the past. They went to his residence, and I can't mention the name because, as you know, it's a matter under investigation.
Yeah.
And then people will want to charge us for defamation and so on. But there are people that they're investigating other than the politicians and the officials of the municipality.
But in your knowledge, is there anyone who has been arrested, or it's just people who have been pursued?
You arrest people when at the advanced stage, when you have findings. You don't investigate and arrest people. You don't arrest people, at the beginning, because they're investigating. They're looking at the smoke. They see there's smoke there. Let us go and see that smoke, They're not dealing with the fire, extinguishing it yet. So, it works like that, and that is fair, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's fair. So we are doing our part, and what is within the law and rules of the legislature, and what I can do as the head of the DA in the Amajuba constituency. I'm doing what I can. Treasury and COCTA are doing what they can. However, that is the political process. The legal process must follow.
Right.
It must follow. There must be nothing that stops it or interferes with it, and the outcome must be respected.
How many councillors do you have at Newcastle municipality?
Newcastle municipality, I have 6 councillors.
6 councillors.
Yes, I have the ward councillor for Ward 2, Ward 3, Ward 4, Ward 5, Ward 34. Those are my ward councillors. Ward 25 is the only Action SA ward in the whole of the Republic of South Africa And I happen to unfortunately live in that ward. It's in a bad state.
Oh.
And then, yes, I didn't vote for them, but of course, they won the ward in 2021. And we have one PR councillor. So 5 ward councillors, 1 PR councillor. And then we have 1 PR councillor in Tanauza, Mamakaza we have there. And we have a ward in Ematangeni. Ward 2 in Ematangeni is a Tehran ward.
Do your councillors take or respect instructions from the party? Because we had another party here who was complaining that they have a councillor at the municipality, but the councillor does not listen. When you tell the councillor to go left, the councillor goes right. How are your councillors performing, and link it to the party mandate?
Yeah, the party mandate is very simple. You obey the constitution of the party.
Right.
And the constitution of the party is our Bible in terms of the party.
Yeah.
And it clearly delineates whose functions are what.
Okay.
Our caucus is very independent from them. I don't give them instructions. Okay. I make recommendations to them.
Yeah.
Based on whatever we see that is happening live and alive to the political environment. And we take feedback from them and give them advice. But I cannot instruct my caucus, however, unless they are doing something that is completely against the party, in which case I can stop them against the party's principles or values and against the party's constitution. I have a duty then to stop them. But the caucus has tremendous amount of independence. Okay. And so I don't get involved in the day-to-day running of the caucus and telling them what to do and how to do it. We trust that we elected people to those positions. Amongst themselves, they elected a leader to the caucus, and they must follow their internal processes. Where they need my advice, I am available. They can come to me, and they do. If I see a political opportunity, because all political parties are looking for votes, and that's what we bank, isn't it? Other political parties might be banking corrupt deals. We bank votes, and we get those votes through service delivery. And so what we do is that we will advise them where there are political opportunities to maximize our vote, because that's what we want. We want, like Jordan Hill Lewis said on Sunday, that we want to govern South Africa in an outright fashion. We want to govern the city of Johannesburg outright. And clearly every attempt in our work is around wanting to govern Newcastle outright, because when the DA governs outright, without any other interference from any other political parties, ask President Zuma, President of the country, Matamela, that we govern well.
Let's talk about the awards. How is service delivery to the awards? Are they doing as they are supposed to? Because we have had other councillors coming here and say we are being sabotaged because we are coming from this party. When there's some development, it goes to that area, and then we are the last ones. When it comes to service delivery, how are they doing?
The DA wards in Newcastle, right, bring in at least 98% of the rates of the municipality. 98% of the income, other than the equitable share that it might receive, for example, for the Department of Human Settlements, or the municipal infrastructure grants and whatever other funding they receive from sources out of the municipality. 98% of the income of the Newcastle municipality comes from the DA wards. I'm quite disappointed that we don't receive all the services that we should. In fact, if I access my phone right now, you will see the Ward 3 councillor wrote to me in absolute desperation that despite having raised the issues through the portfolios, raised the issues in council, raised the issues through Exco, the issues in her ward remain unresolved. Now what happens is the residents will bash the councillor. Will bash the political party.
Sorry to disturb you. Can you go to those issues? What are those issues that the council is raising?
I'm very happy.
If you can touch few of them.
Well, I know one of them, for example, is I'll come to it now while I'm looking for Councillor Hariram Connie. Let me just look here for Councillor Connie Hariram's Ward 3 issues. Let's look at them.
Yeah.
And I'll read it to you. It's a very short email. All right, it's not very short, but it's not very long either. She says, I'm writing to you, and I'm reading it as she sent it to me.
Right.
So we're not going to hide this. I am writing to you as a last resort and need your assistance. I have not been getting any assistance from the municipality with regards to service delivery. At our strat planning, I have clearly stated that Ward 3 has been sidelined with regards to service delivery, which is a complaint that you will get from everybody.
Right.
We are receiving very little to no service delivery despite being a paying ward.
Yeah.
I was telling you that I have been fighting the road at Green Street and Fukon Place to be resurfaced. The director has accused me of being racist when I told him why he is not attending to my ward. So when municipal officials call our ward councillors racist, this person that has done this should be charged. This is completely unethical for an official of the municipality to be attacking a councillor for trying to do her work. Right, and then she says, I have raised the issue of Green Street for the past 6 months with the MM as well, but I'm not getting any assistance. When the resident said she wants this matter in the press, the attitude is that she can go to the press. That is what the people are told by the officials of the municipality. I questioned as to my duties as the ward councillor. I'm insulted, the community is upset, and I am told that I'm useless whilst I continue to try. The other matter is the concern with regards to the trench on Panorama. Now, there's a deep trench there.
Okay.
I'll come to it. Just to elaborate on it. It's an open cesspit. If children fall in there, they will drown and die. The municipality has not been able to attend to this. I have personally raised it with the municipal manager.
Correct.
No response. To the extent that I even said to the Director of Technical Services, the SED, I even said to him, I have spoken to Public Works. You as a municipality, you do not have engineers. The Department of Public Works is prepared to provide you with engineers to solve this problem at no cost to the municipality. But you have to write to them.
Yeah.
Not one move. Nothing written. Nothing raised. Not even the councillors have raised it in council. There's it raised with the municipal manager, raised with the SED, all falling on deaf ears. So I think you're giving me a good opportunity to bash them, and I'm going to use it. Because if when officials don't do what they are supposed to do, when they call the politicians raising the issues with them racist and create all these side issues instead of doing work, those people don't deserve.
So you are not happy?
No, I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy to receive these kinds of emails. Councillor Connie Hariram is a very dedicated and hard-working councillor in that one. And then to receive an email like this, it makes not the hair rise on my body out of, shock. It's out of anger that, I take. It's very passionate service delivery to me. Very passionate I am about it. We want to see people's lives change. We want to see residents living better. And that is just one email that I got. I receive emails from residents. So we're not prepared. We're not prepared to shy away from the fact that everything is not hunky-dory, that everything is not good. There's a lot of good that's happening, but equally, we have the other side of things that are not good. So I'll tell you some of them.
Right.
Because, for example, in the same ward and around town, if you give residents, if you fill the potholes, you resurface the roads, you paint you keep the verges clean, you pick up the rubbish, you make sure the street lights and robots are working, you fix the sewer problems, you fix the bus pipe, the basics of service delivery. If you do it, residents will be the happiest with you in the world. When you don't get the basics right, here starts the problem.
So let's talk about your councillors. Do they get any joy now if they try and discuss this now with your partners, of which it's the party that is ruling? Because I think for you as politicians, there are many ways that you can use to solve problems, unlike ordinary people from Newcastle.
We don't believe in backroom deals. We don't believe in doing things through the back door.
Okay.
We want to do it formally and officially and hold the municipality to account. The councillors must use the mechanisms in the service delivery agreement. They must use they must use the committees of council. They must use the exco, and they must use the floor of the council to raise motions, to raise questions, to raise issues of service delivery. If they don't achieve that, they can come to you. You are the fourth estate. They must come to you. They must inform the residents. This is what I have done. The municipality has not responded. Partner or no partner.
I like what you are saying, but because of time, I'm going to cut fast to other things.
Let's
like
go.
Like the issue of the electricity.
Yes.
Because you stay in town.
Yes.
I know that the residents are not happy at all. I won't divulge other things, but I know that they're having meetings in order to try and fix that situation. They've met with the mayor in the past, and they have not solved the issue, but they're in the process.
What electricity issue are you?
They complain about the prices, the tariffs that they are paying. As a party, how are you handling that one?
Look, our caucus leader, I spoke to him about that.
Yes.
Because it affects me.
Yeah.
It affects everybody in the town.
Yes.
So it's not like I'm speaking as if I'm from out of town.
Yeah.
And so I called him when they strat plan and I said to him, hey, Councillor, what are you people talking there about the tariffs, Because there's this rumor that, the municipality might be charging 20% over and above the tariff rate that was approved by NERSA.
Yes.
And, I would recommend to you that you oppose it. You don't agree to it. And you stand up in council, and when it comes to a vote, you don't support it. Right? So he said, look, the thing is that it has been approved by NERSA. It's going to happen. And so I said, okay, that means that it has already passed all those stages that are above us and have now filtered down to the municipality. So at the very least, we can't, no, not at the very least, actually, that's the wrong thing to say. At maximum, that must be the rate. We cannot accept even 0.5% more, not even 1% more. We put up the greatest fight against VAT, as you remember. Yeah. As a result of which South Africans are definitely, they have more money in their pocket now. Because if it ended up by that 1%, South Africans would have been that 1% poorer on many things. So the same thing with the municipality. We said, look, eventually we agreed to the NERSA tariff. And I said, if the municipality, and it's still going through a process, because the municipality will have to, in its IDP, as part of the process, go out and ensure that all kinds of discussions are taking place with the community and input, but at the very least, or at the very most, we will only support the NERSA increase and nothing more.
Nothing more. The complaint about the issue of the water crisis. I came in Newcastle in 2009, right? Yeah. That time there was not a lot of water shortage, water cuts that is happening. But now we find a lot of complaint on the streets from the people talking about water being on and off, and the issue of sewage spillage in other areas. What do you think?
So both are distinct.
Yeah.
They're not the same.
Yeah, no, they are not the same.
So when I ask you what water crisis, I'm not denying there's a water problem. Yeah. What I'm trying to get from you is where you're particularly talking about. Because there are issues I'll give you an example. You take dry cut.
Yeah.
You take that whole area, part of Ward 15.
Mm-hmm.
There is a massive reservoir there.
Yeah.
If you go there to that reservoir.
Mostly it is at the location.
No. It's everywhere. I'll come to it. It's not only on the location, but it's everywhere.
Yeah.
So if you take that particular area, there was a massive reservoir that was built.
Yeah.
Go there now. It's nothing. There's no water in the tanks. The pumps have been stolen. The whole place has been broken. There is no security guard. The fences are gone. That entire project collapsed. We've been there twice already.
Right.
That matter was handed over to the district municipality who was responsible for bulk water supply.
Because we've been there with the municipality.
Yeah, you've been there with the municipality. And nothing is happening about. We don't know where that investigation is at the moment. I've tasked Councillor Kunene, who is our chairperson of the Municipal Public Accounts Committee at the district, to give me an immediate report on that. So I'm waiting for him to compile it. Same problem. The officials there dragging their feet. I don't know why. But as soon as we get that report, we'll make it very public to you. The other problem that is encountered, and this was in a conversation with the mayor, There is, and this is not particular to Newcastle, it's all over the place, all over the country. You've probably heard about the water tanker mafias.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of sabotage going on in the different areas, where they go and shut off these valves. Now, sometimes you don't even know where these valves are. They know where these valves are. They shut them off. When you investigate, when you find community, all you have to do is open it again, and communities have water. So there's all these kinds of nefarious things that are happening, for which I'm sad to say there's not much accountability. But we've not heard that, when you've identified, well, who do you identify also? Because communities, when they sometimes see things, that's why we always advocate for a whole of community, whole of society approach. People in communities know who are the people that are doing these things. Not all the time, but often. And if they see a particular truck or something, they mustn't keep quiet about it.
Yeah, I was going to ask, because mostly I'm not. It's just a high view. I'm not saying it's like that.
Yeah.
Please don't quote me on that one.
Yeah, sure.
But sometimes you'll find that the people who will stop or the infrastructure from working or affect it, they have something to gain from it.
Many times.
Because someone who will lose when there's no valve there won't interfere with the water. But if you are going to gain, then you will do it. But also, it comes to the measures in place to cap that. We need to also look at that.
Yeah, you're right. You absolutely. I agree with you 100%. The problem again is, I don't think there's any municipality that has the capability or ability to police all these things. They're not going to be able to put, if I may use a colloquial term, machingaland at every valve, and watch it. It's impossible to do. So a lot of it will depend on members of communities, like I say, a whole society approach to things. We have a responsibility as communities. If we see something wrong, we need to partner up with government and say, look, we saw this car, or we took a picture, it's this van, or I can identify that person. Talk to your ward councillor, talk to your ward committee members, go and report it to the police if you have more information. Ideally, a video if you see anybody interfering with any municipal infrastructure. Because at the end of the day, if anybody interferes with municipal infrastructure, it's about you. So there's no shortage of water in Amajuba. We have water. I'll give you another example. It's not reaching the taps, and that's the problem. The other problem is, I'll give you another example. Ward 2. Ward 2 is in town, right? Where Ferrum is.
Yeah.
So there's a whole area that doesn't get water. It was particularly affected during load shedding because the electricity wasn't reaching the pumps, and so the reservoirs were not getting full, and then the residents were not getting water. Now with load shedding gone, there's still a problem, because then the pumps break down. And then the municipality doesn't have money or doesn't have parts, or there's some issue to repair those pumps, and it's an ongoing problem. So it doesn't only affect the location areas, it affects all parts of town.
Tell me, do we have a problem of finance at the municipality?
We do indeed.
We do.
Absolutely.
Why is it that? Because I heard that sometimes we have the money and we don't finish it, and we end up not getting the money. So could that be also the problem?
So under expenditure in any area is a taboo. It should never happen, because money is given to the municipality to spend on the services of people, to serve people. And when a municipality doesn't spend its grants properly, like the municipal infrastructure grants, for example, which is supposed to be used to replace infrastructure like the water pipes and things like that, it's absolutely criminal. There is no forgiveness for that. There's no turning the other cheek for that. That must be slammed and condemned in the most profound of ways. It's impossible that should happen. So the thing is that you can equally not spend it on the wrong things.
Yeah, I understand.
So what happens is, people will make accusations of under expenditure and money being returned, because the money cannot be particularly used for something in that budget cycle. So sometimes you might have an amount of money that's there, but the project is still in a process, for example, of awarding the tender.
Okay.
So what will happen, that money will not be spent in that financial year. Now, it's not like my bank account and your bank account,
Yeah.
where you can keep that money in your bank account. When the project becomes, or the award is given of the tender, then you take the money out and pay it. It doesn't work like that. So if you didn't spend it in that cycle, there is something called a rollover.
Yes.
You can apply for those rollovers to national and provincial treasury and COFTA and so on through the whatever the municipal finance, MFMA Management Act, the Municipal Finance Management Act allows, and then those things can follow. But a lot of those occasions where we have seen those under expenditures, it could be justified. And I did query it with my councillor who's on the Municipal Public Accounts Committee, because that is one of the committees other than the finance committees that deals with that kind of expenditure, particularly post-expenditure. So after money has been spent, where are things?
Yeah.
So I sit with her from time to time and say, look, what's going on?
Yeah.
Where are we? Where is that expenditure going? So you will find that these rollovers and these things do arise from time to time. And that is why the Auditor General, when they audit the funds of the municipality, have found that the municipality, it's not a clean audit, but it's an unqualified audit, which is the good one. The names are a bit confusing. You get the qualified audit and the unqualified one. The unqualified one is the nice one, and the qualified one is not the nice one. It's a strange phenomenon in terms of the use of the English language. But the reality is that the municipality did get an unqualified audit because it managed those processes properly. So while you will see under expenditure, it is better than the other cardinal sin of over expenditure. Now, trying to balance those books, the municipality has ended up in a bit of trouble. In that they have a massive ESCOM debt, they have a massive debt to Tugela Water, which they are not meeting. They paid it off at some point. They're still in the process of paying off all municipal debt.
If we can simplify for my listener, because you get debate on our social media, people saying this party came in, they paid off the debt. Where is the debt coming from? If you can simplify for them that, because you've just told us that there is the debt that is being paid now. If you can simplify that.
The old debt is not paid off. Right. The one that was inherited from the ANC government.
Okay.
And they incurred massive debt, particularly for the municipal building, the fancy one that you see there in town.
All right.
And many other things. There's massive debt that was inherited by the municipality. Now that debt needs to be serviced. In fact, the sooner you pay it off, the better, because then you'll have money to do other things. Okay. That kind of debt, while it may have been justified at the time and they would have told you no, we would have done it, and that's another story. But the reality is that even money that came in during that time, was it used properly? I'll give you an example. Okay. This councillor in Ward 3 that I was talking to you about, Councillor Arira, she has a set of flats in that municipality. It was municipal flats before. 12 million rand was given to the municipality for that, to refurbish those flats. 12 million rand to fix the light fittings, bathtubs, paint the building, sort the electricity out and things like that. You go and look at it today, from the outside, you will think that it was last serviced in 1975.
Yeah.
Not only that, when you go inside,
what happened?
We don't know what happened to that money. And the service providers, how they charged it up. And who was presiding over that portfolio at that time is another question we have to ask. So those are the kinds of things that where money went into corruption, crooked deals. I'm not saying it's not happening now. It's probably also happening now. We just need to catch the people. But when you start opening those books and you start looking at all those things, you will wonder, the money came into the town, where did it go? And so the money is still coming to the town and we're still wondering where it's going. So we have to ask those questions also. We have to keep an eye on the books to make sure that the services are delivered. When you open a tap, you must get water. When you switch on the light, the electricity must be there. When you drive on the streets, it mustn't damage your rims or burst your tires. And your rubbish must be collected and your robots must work and you must be safe at night with the street lights on. Those are the kinds of things we want to see, isn't it?
Yeah.
So every resident wants that. There's nobody that can say, any government. So the government, when you talk to the government of the town, they will tell you, no, these are the noble intentions. but you measure it according to what the people are telling you. And the thing about what I've learned in politics, people are never happy with their leaders.
Okay.
So we get a lot of criticism. I think I've got high blood pressure now since I've been in politics, but it's fine.
And sometimes leaders don't deliver on the promise.
That's true. That's why, in the Democratic Alliance in particular, we don't go around promising people things. We don't go around making promises. We'll tell you what is our ability, what we can and can't do. So if people want to tell, people came to us and we interacted. I'll give you an example with a group of EFF members that wanted to join us. And we went and met with them.
Yeah.
In Denhausen. No, not Denhausen, this is Wendy. And we had a long conversation with them. And we just could not agree to the things that they were asking of us. They had this mentality that flowed from their party that they think would also be applicable to the DA. And we simply could not come to terms with them. And therefore, we could not agree to their membership. There were about 45 of them, but we declined to accept them as members because we could not come to terms with their understanding of what they think a political party is versus who we are, what our values and principles are.
All right. I'm just struggling because I'm on this side, but I want to take some of the people who have just commented here.
Yeah, sure.
I have Mrs. Wendabugo Zulu, who says Hawks is regarding 2016, the Hawks that came to Newcastle. And Sandy Ledladla is saying Hawks are not investigating 2016 issues. They are investigating current allegations surrounding the Newcastle municipality corruption. So there is a debate there about what the Hawks came for. Malaysia Putin Mazezul is saying it would have been much appreciated if Dr. Keeka has come immediately after the sitting of Mr. Mkhize outwardly and boldly tell the people of Newcastle about their stand on the alleged corruption facing the municipality. I will take those now because I need to go to the other screen where I can see the others. Oh, okay. Okay, wait, you can come in. Oh, all right.
Okay, so lots of questions
Oh, okay, you can respond in the meantime.
Yeah, in the meantime, look, they're investigating a lot of issues. I have not had the opportunity to sit in with the Hawks or to ask them any questions, so I can't speak on their behalf. They can be asked for a public statement, and I'm sure they will respond to you and tell you what they're investigating. So my understanding so far is that they're investigating not only the current facts, but they're drilling into things that are going into the past. Like I mentioned to you, there is a contractor who's no longer a contractor, but was a contractor. And so they raided his place as well. And so there are lots of things that they're investigating. I think Melisha's comment was just a comment, and therefore I don't need to comment.
All right. So if you can come on the other side.
You have more?
Yeah,
good evening. How are you? Walaikum salam. How are you? Very good.
Oh.
You say that very well. Have you come to crucify me or?
No. My phone is shutting down.
All right. In the meantime, because of time, no. It's just that I can't enter. He was entering on the screen.
Oh, dear.
From that side. Okay, but it's fine. Can you answer, or I can just?
I have responded to them. You can join more.
Let's just go to DA now.
Yeah.
In Newcastle.
Yes.
Because we are heading.
But I thought you already asked me those questions.
No. We are going to the elections now. I need to touch that.
Yes.
Because we have seen in other areas whereby DA came out and made it clear that Helen Zille will be the mayoral candidate for Johannesburg. How is it going, especially in Newcastle? Have you sat down and looked at your candidates for Newcastle, or is it in the process?
No, we are almost complete with the process.
Okay.
So in the DA, the process didn't start now. We looked at the possible election date, which is probably November sometime. It may be extended depending on the president's mood. But as far as we recall, as far as we are concerned, the election will be in November. And so we started working backwards from that date and started working on all the issues like our candidate selection processes and so on. And in the DA, we opened the process and we let anybody apply. If you want to be a DA councillor, we advertised it on social media, radio stations, TV, everywhere. People knew if you wanted to become a DA councillor, you can apply to be a DA councillor. And it was open to everybody. People applied to be DA councillors.
So you received applications?
Plenty.
Okay.
And we received all those applications, not only in Amajuba, but all over the country. And then what happens is that once those applications are received, we vet them.
Okay.
There are certain criteria that we look at to see whether the application will move to the next process.
Is criminal record one of them?
It's not one of them. But we do ask people if they have a criminal record. If they say yes or no, that declaration, if they say no and later on we find out that they do, obviously we'll disqualify them. If by some chance they get elected as a DA councillor, we'll fire them because they lied to us.
The level of education is
the level of the minimum is we do ask if you have a matric.
Okay.
So if you don't have a matric, we won't say no because we still have a long way to go to address the injustices of the past. And so if somebody doesn't have a matric, it's not an outright no, you can't be a DA councillor. So we ask about educational qualifications, we ask about a matric, we'll ask if you're a DA member. Obviously, you must be resident in the municipality where you are applying. So you can't be elected as a councillor in Newcastle, but your official residence is in Etegwini or in Ladysmith. So you must be ordinarily resident in that area. And so once and that is not done face to face, it is done on the papers. So once your application is submitted, there is a panel that will sit and look at all those applications and say, yes, this one meets 4 out of 5 criteria or 3 out of 5 criteria, and so they can move on to the next stage. Part of the next stage is that we set targets for our candidates and our councillors. So we look at, are they able to do the work of the party, because that is very important to us. Are they able to canvass?
So are they forming those branches?
Branches already
recruiting the members?
They must do all of that. We expect all of any political party in the country that doesn't do that, like the MK, they don't do that. So then what kind of a party is that? Where you just say, no, you are the leader, like Oprah Winfrey, you just allocate and appoint people. It doesn't work like that.
I see that you are not a fan of UBAP.
Not at all.
I see.
And not at all. And then you change every week to fire this one and remove that one, and then how stability is there in political parties? So then, okay, let's leave them now. Then what we do is we have an interview process.
All right. Which you need to pass. Because sometimes politicians have interviews, but not that you need to pass.
But you see, the way it works is that we don't do only Amajuba.
Okay.
Where I will sit and make a decision.
All right.
So I'll give you an example of this region.
Okay.
We took Amajuba, we took Utugela, we took Umziniati.
Okay.
So the constituency head of Amajuba, Umziniati, and Utugela, all three were there. Then we have people from the branches that are elected by the branches who sit on that panel. The candidates don't know who those people are. So we take them from the branches in the 3 constituencies. We have a balance of public representatives and non-public representatives. And we have a panel.
So when you have the names, you will let us know. You will give us those. Or we
won't release the lists of the candidates.
Okay.
My job is to do the work of interviewing the particular person. And the process is very rigorous.
Okay.
It is done under full supervision. It is sound recorded, it is video recorded, people are allowed to appeal the outcomes. It's a very rigorous process. And over and above that, every candidate has to write an exam.
Okay, so you have something there.
Yeah, here on our page.
Yes.
did radio Facebook page. There's Salvin Moodley. He says away some talk.
Away.
Yeah, and then here's Aruna Singh Chakanat.
Yeah.
Saying good afternoon, Dr. Imraan
Afternoon,
Keeka.
Aruna.
Thank you for all that you do for the people of Newcastle, and throughout people vote DA for a better future for all.
Okay, thank you for the compliments and greetings. There's a saying I learned in the Urdu language.
All right.
And I'll say it in Urdu and translate it for you because it always humbles me.
Okay.
I had a spiritual mentor who taught me these words, and in the Urdu language it says, "Hum aise rahe ya ke waise rahe, waha dekhna hai hum kaise rahe." Meaning that you remember we're all going to die, isn't it?
Yeah.
And my belief in my religion is ultimate accountability is going to be to God Almighty. I'm a God-fearing man, I believe. And so it says that in this world, that saying means in this world, we might live like this and like that. The important thing is to keep in your mind how you are going to live when you are there. So this is the principle by which we live by: accountability, accountability, accountability. And our members and our public representatives know this. We do not hesitate to hold people to account.
Yes. Continue, Mr. Mdluli.
Yeah, there's this one. There's Mangoba.
Oh yeah, Mangoba. I saw something. Yeah, but it's just ran away,
Hi, Mangoba.
Mangoba Malandere. Say DA is corrupt. Complicit,
Complicity, that's
to the corruption happening in Newcastle and Amajuba municipality district in its entirety. Similarly, Mr. Doctor or the doctor.
Oh, he says the one.
No, it's fine. Look, we've got to be responsible leaders, and part of responsible leadership is to appreciate all views of people. There are definitely people that don't like us, and I have made clear who I don't like. The MK, for example. So there's a two-way street on these things, and we respect Mankova's view. We don't believe it's true, but he has this is the democracy for which blood was spilled, and this is the democracy for which that gives us the ability to speak like this, because there are some people who have a different version of democracy, and who want to send pregnant girls to Robben Island and things like that. So they want to take us backwards, and we'll never accept that. So we hope that Mangoba might not like us, and that is fine. We hope that we can meet him sometime, or her. I think it's a him. We're happy to meet the gentleman.
He's an EFF man.
Oh, he's an EFF man. Okay, we don't like them also. So that's fine, Mangoba. We really don't like your party. In fact, we abhor them. But we respect your view. I must say that we work with Mongezi Twala, your leader in the province, sits with us in the legislature, and I must say that he's a good man. He comes from our town. And he's a good man, and I have a lot of respect for him. We are able to talk. He raises pertinent issues, sometimes complete nonsense, but most of the time our interactions with him are very useful. He comes with solid things to us. We are in the government of provincial unity now. As a leader in the government of provincial unity, where I chair portfolio, I have a duty to listen and raise issues and take the issues that come to us. So Mangoba, you're welcome to talk to me and raise your issues despite your views. Yeah. They are lies, by the way.
Okay, tell us about the mandate that you gave your councillors during this faith motion that was put by the ANC through the recent council meeting that was happening. Maybe you were supporting it for the mayor to move out.
We are not like the EFF that change our views in the one view in the morning, and in the afternoon we have another view, or like the MK that decides something in the morning, changes it in the afternoon again in the evening, like we see in the legislature and with their leadership. So we don't do that. When we give our word, we stick to it. And we gave our word to ensure that the ANC doesn't return to government here. because that's exactly what would have happened. The reason that these parties got together and are in government today is because the people voted that way. Similarly, in the province, the MK continues to perpetuate this myth that they are the majority. Yes, they have great numbers, but they are not the majority. In KwaZulu-Natal, 55% of the province did not vote for them. So similarly, in this municipality and in others, the mandate was not given to the ANC. So the ANC wanted to come back through the back door through a motion of no confidence. I did not have to give any mandate to my councillors. They know what the agreement is between us and the IFP and other political parties, and they stuck to that.
It seems as if DA doesn't want to take this big position in municipal, like maybe to be community services ESCO or deputy mayor. I believe in Newcastle there were some openings there, but the DA doesn't take. Why? Most of the time they don't allow them.
Well, you're right. We have a duty to the people. If we accepted the position of deputy mayor and we were not able to deliver through that position, it would be detrimental to our political project. The reality is that if we accepted the position, it would have been accepting the position for the sake of accepting the position. We feel that it is better for us to be in the more junior positions where we can hold the government accountable of the day, that is the mayor and his deputy, from the positions that we hold. And I think that is more noble than wanting to take up a position and then becoming part of the fray. And that is not what the people want. The people didn't vote for us to be the deputy mayor of Newcastle. And if we wanted to be the deputy mayor of Newcastle or the mayor of Newcastle, we should have worked harder and got more votes. That is what should have happened.
Okay. To Miss Mshalseni Zulu. I know he was a member.
He was my member, but he was the member. He knows where I am. He's got my number. He knows where I am. We can, he's hopped a couple of parties. He's a good man. He's got the community at heart. He's always had the community at heart.
He left your party at a crucial time. I think
he did indeed.
You were going to give him a position in the municipality.
I don't give positions.
Oh, okay.
There is a free and fair process in the party that he would have. He had made a name for himself in the party, but he thought the prospects were better somewhere else, and he realized that was a treacherous party that took him and then put a knife between his ribs.
So if he asks you to come back, you will allow it?
Well, he must come and talk to us. The party has regulations. I can't decide that. It is decided by our provincial executive committee. He must apply for membership if he wants to join us. We will put it to the provincial executive committee. The provincial executive committee will put it to our federal executive committee. Those memberships, anybody returning to the party can't just return to the party.
So,
there is a process.
How about Steyn? You remember Steyn?
Yes, former councillor Steyn. Yes,
well.
He was a councillor.
Some problems.
Many problems. Yes.
So that he can.
We couldn't find him for a long time.
Yes.
We tried to find him for a long time. I unfortunately on a radio station do not want to go.
Anymore.
I don't see him myself. I cannot go into his personal circumstances because that would be unkind of me.
Yeah.
And I don't think it is befitting of any leader to talk about somebody's personal issues. I always believe in playing the ball and not the man, and therefore I'm not going to go into the issue. But I haven't seen him for many years. Hopefully he's listening at some point or somebody tells him. We'd love to see him and love to meet him. He was a very valuable member of the party. It is unfortunate that his personal circumstances took him away from us.
Mr. Ngowi, your councillor,
yes.
Ward 34.
Ward 34, that is correct.
Yeah, people are complaining that Amajuba, they say he doesn't call meetings at VT of Amajuba. What can you say about that?
What I know about all of my councillors is all of my councillors have their monthly meetings. And they have, it is a statutory requirement once per quarter and more often if required. Those meetings are all well advertised and they are not specific to a VD. So there is no requirement to have per VD meetings. So the councillor is compliant with his requirement of his quarterly meetings. And his ward committees come from all parts of the ward to which people have access. And if the people of KwaMatuguza want to see him and he's not responding to them, My number is 083-703-9135. I'll repeat it for people. 083-703-9135. I'll go with them and meet them.
You once posted a video about. I saw a video. Right?
I posted.
No, I know. I saw a video
yes.
in the media, in Facebook.
Yes.
I think, about LCM of Newcastle. You said is underqualified.
Correct.
Yes. Are you still maintaining that? And then what step has taken?
I'm waiting for the investigation to emerge. Honorable Buthelezi, the MEC for Kokta, is the question you must ask to him, because he is the one that said he stood up in the legislature and gave his word as a part of the proceeding of the legislature, that he will investigate that matter. We must allow him time to investigate that matter, and we will see what the outcome is. Once I obtain it, I'll make it public to you. I maintain what I said. It's not a lie. I said it in the House, and if it's a lie, then I will have to be answerable in terms of the Ethics Committee of the legislature for bringing lies there.
No, I'm just checking my time. It's more than an hour now.
I'm
So we need to, for today, we need to conclude.
Right.
Remember what I said to you. I said it's our first engagement, and we need to meet every now and then and discuss other things, because we have a lot of portfolios. So this was just an introduction. So we touched a lot of things. But now, when you conclude, what are your parting shots? What would you say to the people from Newcastle, Amajuba District, your DA followers? What would you say to them in closing as a party?
Quite honestly, I didn't prepare any closing remarks for anybody.
Oh, you don't want to?
Have. No, I'm going to.
All right.
I'll say what's in my heart, because
that's good.
I've come here completely unscripted. I saw your questions. I asked you before I came here, what is it that you might ask me about? And I looked at it in general and I said, look, this is fair. And so, it's very simple. South Africa needs to change. South Africa cannot continue on the trajectory that it is on at the moment. What is very good for South Africa is that the hegemony of one party has been broken. This is the best thing that could have happened to South Africa. We don't have too many ministries in the government of national unity. We have ministers and we have deputy ministers, we have chairpersons of portfolio committees. But clearly through those ministries, the DA difference is noticeable. That's the first thing. Same thing in the province. We only have 2 MECs.
I should have asked this message.
No, you wait your turn now. I'm talking now. So I need to be like a presiding officer. So the thing is that to our ministries we deliver. In the province, we have 2 portfolios. Treasury and finance, of course, which is one. We have public works and infrastructure, and there are 4 committees that we chair. We chair ethics, which is chaired by the deputy speaker. We chair health. We chair SCOPA. We chair COCTA, and one more. And that is called the scrutiny of subordinate legislation. That is what we do in the province. And through our work, whether it's in the National Assembly or here, we have shown that we are able to hold the government accountable from within. And one example that I gave earlier is the example of VAT. If the DA had not put its foot down and had not stood up for all South Africans would have been poorer for it today. Similarly, we stood up when the petrol price hike was going on. The amount that was envisaged versus the amount that came out eventually. Because through our work in the Ministry of Finance, where we have a deputy minister who has also been elected as our Federal Council chairperson, Ashur Sarupen, we were able to find money to ensure that the price didn't go up by that further 3 rands. And South Africans are richer for it today. Because all of that impacts on our lives. So the reality is, closer to home, we took over a municipality 5 years ago by a small majority. The Umgeni municipality, which is led by Mayor Christopher Papas and Sandile Mnigati, who is the deputy mayor. And both those 2 gentlemen with their team have shown us what it is to take over a municipality the only one in KwaZulu-Natal, and turn it around completely. Where the usual accountability mechanisms by the opposition political parties in that municipality are in place, but the DA on its own makes a bigger difference. That is what we need all over. Or if people are not going to vote for us or make us a major partner in any coalition that may go forward in any municipality, then the reality is that the people will be poorer for it. The other reality is this. The leader of the DA in KwaZulu-Natal, Francois Rogers, he said to us at our provincial council recently that we will not be entering into any service delivery agreement again with any political party in KwaZulu-Natal. Because there are lessons that we learned from that. So we will not do it again. The dynamic of how that will pan out in any municipality is something that will have to be left when we come to win the bridge. Although our leadership are in full throttle planning for all those kinds of eventualities, because that is exactly what's going to happen here. So our commitment to South Africans is that we are an accountable government, we are accountable and reliable where we are, and we make no false promises to people. Where we govern, of all the jobs created in South Africa, the biggest or largest number of jobs and growths have taken place in our province, where we govern outright, and that is in the Western Cape. We're not saying that. Government's own metrics are saying that. So the reality is that this is, in a nutshell, we want to root out corruption, we want to govern outright, we want jobs and growth, we want to get rid of corruption, and the bottom line is, we want to put South Africans first. And we know we do that when we govern.
Thank you very much for taking our call and honoring the appointment. You know that you still owe us, but we'll meet in future. We'll sit down and engage more so that we'll get to understand the other portfolios that you are busy with. Because today we're interested more in Amajuba District, if I can put it that way.
If I'm in town, I'm available to you. I'm grateful for the opportunity. Your questions were not the easiest in the world. They were holding us accountable. We like that. We want to be open and transparent. People must call and hold us accountable. And thank you very much for the opportunity. We wish your listeners all of the very best. There is still some time before the elections. We will interact. They will find us on the streets. They must greet us and meet us, even if they don't want to join us. But if they want to join us, they must join us.
The comments are coming in.
Are they coming in? What are they saying? Just bring one or two.
Yeah, we want to close now.
And I know you are impatient. I love the people of South Africa, you know. Let's talk to the people.
That you is moving up. Is it too much? I'm saying it's too much now. Moving fast like this one. Nash Manolita G.
Right.
40A.
Thank you.
40A, and then this other one, and this one that you fully support. There's another one. Malaysia Putin Manzezo. He said that you fully support through your being mom in all their wrongdoings. It's only now that it's moving now that DA comes out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But the quick response is that you must pay attention to what we do.
Yeah.
Because we always put out our views and opinions. Yeah, there are more people.
Yeah. No, thanks very much, Dr. Keeka.
Thank you very much.
I was thinking maybe this time you're going to become a MEC for health.
I must get more votes. I must work harder.
Okay, thank you.
See you next time. Thank you very much.
Lead Radio listeners, thank you very much for listening. Just remember, you can always catch the conversation on our Facebook page if you go to Lead Radio. But After 3 months, Facebook will delete, and then you can move to YouTube. We also take them and post them on YouTube, so you can also find them on YouTube. But you can also tune in on the app when we are live, and then you will find our shows there. Thank you very much. I must say that when we meet people on the street, they love the conversations that we have. They love seeing their leaders coming forward. So those whom we are trying to reach and they are not coming to us, please, they must answer the call. They must come and sit with us here and have a chat, because the people are interested. They want to hear their leaders speaking, and they are watching. And what is nice is they're doing catch up. Even if they don't see you, they come and they catch up and they comment on that time when they watch the video. So it's very nice. Thank you very much. Keep watching and listening to Lead Radio. Bye.
Assalamu alaikum.
Hello,
I'm also very late for my prayer.
Yeah, I can see you. You're all thinking that.
I need to pray here because I want me to
This one is-
no problem.
I'm happy to pray right here.
You want
No problem.
Antimangala.
It's all right. Penza ukuthi usuvulile lapho. Walila.